What's going on, guys? Andrew Taylor here. I'd like to talk a little bit about cleaning up drums for the Who was it? Oh God! Oh! Ah! Ew! Oh! Oh! Alright, so clearly we've got a lot of work cut out ahead of us. We want to take this dirty, used, and loved drum kit and turn it into something that'll sound great in a recording situation. But how are we going to do that? Well, lucky for you, I've already done it and I filmed this part after, so let's just get into it. So just a quick background. I've been recording my band's first album for a while now, and it sounds something like this. And we've decided that we'd like to try to record live drums instead of just using drum samples. This is my first time recording a full album and my first time recording live drums, so I'm absolutely not an expert on this at all. This kit is a Dixon Demon 6-shell kit with some Sabian cymbals. Honestly, it's a pretty decent kit. This kit belongs to my guitarist, whose name I'll mention later because it's a joke, you'll get it later. And he's used it for years to play gigs and jam. Fortunately, he's allowed me to keep it at my place until we finish recording. And I'll surely miss it once it's gone. But for now, why don't we take a look at what we're dealing with here. I didn't realize the extent of the issues that we have going on here at the beginning of this project. Otherwise, I probably would have gotten more footage. So there's a few gaps here and there, but I think you'll get the point. So as you can see, we definitely need new heads, and that's pretty normal and to be expected. But in addition to that, we do have some pretty aggressive rusting going on some of the hardware. A lot of the hardware. Most of the hardware. Unfortunately, even with the kit sitting on top of a DIY pallet riser, it was still affected by the damp and sometimes flooding basement that it was stored in and that we used to hold band practice in. The kit has also accumulated some dust and cobwebs over the years, so those will have to go too. Cleaning the shells and replacing the heads seemed like the easiest thing to do, so I started with that. Mamma mia! Oof, this baby sure has seen some use. I'm afraid to ask, but I'm worried that this head has never been replaced on this drum, which if you're not recording, isn't really that big of a deal, but still. You know, drum keys are great, but I highly recommend getting one of these drum key drill bits. They're like $5 and they really speed up time when swapping out heads. I am not an expert on this stuff, so be sure to do your own research if you're gonna try it yourself. But I learned that it was very important to do like a zigzag pattern when you're swapping the heads on a drum head to maintain that pressure and to not damage anything. While I do this sick time lapse, why don't you check out this nice gesture that our guitarist, who owns this drum kit, is doing for our drummer, who currently doesn't have a kit to play while I'm working on it.
To the little drummer boy, Tyler Golden Eagle Rotten Shots, when you come to practice at my house, since my drum set is in the studio, we got you a special present. Here you go. You'll have to bring your own double kick. Oh.
Man, check that out. It's like we were sanding wood on top of the snare drum, but also it's disgusting. I want to mention again that I don't really think there's anything wrong with the kit looking like this. As somebody that spent way too much time obsessing over gear and how it looks, instead of actually playing it, it makes me happy to see that this kit got used so much. At this point, I just sprayed and wiped down all the shells and I trashed the old heads. There's 6 shells total, so I'm sure you don't want to sit through all of that. Oh, I also tried to clean the kick beaters by soaking them in bleach to try to get them white again. If that doesn't work, don't try it. Moving on to the cymbals, it doesn't really seem like all the scuffing on it affects the sound. I'm sure there's gonna be some guys in the comments that might feel otherwise, and maybe they're correct, I don't know. But I didn't really spend too much time working on them. I just gave them a regular wipe down, and they looked a little bit better afterwards. Though I do have to say, I'm kicking myself for not getting any footage of this at all, but there was one china that was just had this gigantic blood splatter on it, and there was absolutely no denying it was blood. Our guitarist, who will be named soon enough, he did manage to take a picture of that night that he was playing the drums. He had a show and he was just going ham and he busted his hands up and they're all bloody. Picture's not that bad, but if you don't want to see it, look away in 3, 2, 1. All right, it's gone now. As it turns out, blood cleans off of cymbals pretty easily. Oh, all right. This was definitely the longest and most difficult part of this project by far. Dealing with that rust. This took forever. My best advice on how to do this is just don't let it happen to begin with. Keep your gear the hell away from any moisture at all. Keep it away. I'm begging you. I mean, just look at that. There's a thick with 2 C's layer of rust. Kind of, does it grow? Does rust grow? Growing on the bottom of almost every single leg of hardware, and sometimes even higher up. It's on the throne, the kick drum, the hi-hat, the floor toms, and all 6, yes, 6 cymbal stands. All 6 of them, or 5, I lost track. There's a lot of them. Again, if you try this, make sure you do your own research. This is not a guide at all. This is just how I did it. So I found a couple things online that said that rust could be removed using white vinegar. So what I did is I removed the screws from each element of the kit, like the mounting screws that connect the heads to each drum, which we have 2 heads on every single piece, so that's 2 sets of screws per. And I let them soak overnight or however long it took in a little plastic bowl with white vinegar. This camera's flashing and I'm worried it's gonna stop recording. Oh, I never did a clap in the beginning. Fuck. I feel bad that I didn't do a clap earlier, but here's one now. Oh no, I dropped my phone. For the legs on like the floor toms and stuff, I just unscrewed them and tried to let them soak the best I could. If I was lucky, and that's if I was lucky, that next morning I was able to just wipe the rust right off, like magically. It was insane. But more often than not, there'd be a certain amount of rust that no matter how long I soaked it, just would not come off. So I had to use a mixture of, I used some folded up aluminum foil, which worked pretty well, steel wool, and sometimes even an older wire brush that had kind of lost a little bit of its edge, because while you're scraping that extra rust off, you don't also want to be scratching the finish of the metal, because that looks bad too. It's a very delicate balance, and it took a very long time. It took a very long time. This sucked. This really sucked. There's no getting over it. This part, it just sucked. On some of the stands, the rust had actually gotten into the little nooks and crannies, and it actually prevented you from adjusting the stand. It was like welded together. So for those larger pieces, I put some of the white vinegar in a spray bottle and just tried to spray the areas and just like pry it apart and then try to scrub on the inside the best I could to get as much of it as I could. I was getting this was such a long process that I was getting kind of bummed, and it was really like a stretch, you know what I mean? So I didn't really get a ton of footage of it. Sorry, I was just trying to get it done. Just imagine all of that, careful spraying and then rubbing down and then wiping it from there, and then scraping it if you need to, and then try not to scratch up the metal, and it's imagine that forever. It lasted forever. I think it took me like 2 weeks of spending an hour almost every single day just to finally get results that I was okay with. It's not perfect. I'll try to show some of the footage of the kit right now, and there's some spots that like sometimes I just couldn't get it to go away. I don't know if maybe that's some sort of thing I don't know about. Sometimes rust is permanent. I don't know, but it just would not scrub off no matter what I did. But I think it's a lot better than it was before. Again, prevention. Don't let your stuff get in your water ever. Ugh, now that all that shit was finally done, I started to do some research as to what kind of gear we needed to try to get the sound that we were going for, as far as like drum heads and whatever else. I went with Remo Powerstroke P3 heads for the kick, clear Evans EC2 heads for the toms, and an Evans ST dry coated snare head. Almost entirely off of recommendations from the SMG Discord. Oh yeah, go subscribe to Spectre Sound Studios. Bassers are dum-dum, no-touch mic. Add on a pack of moon gels, a drum dial, and then one of those like Remo slam pad double kick stickers for the kick, and we're in business. This isn't really pertinent to the video, but once I made that list on Sweetwater of all the things that we would need to invest in as a band to try to get our drums sounding the best that we could, I was anticipating everyone was gonna chip in a little bit. Tyler, our drummer, went rogue, and he just bought it all on his own dollar and sent it our way, and he is a true king for that. Thanks, Tyler. After everything was delivered, it was time to start everyone's favorite process, tuning the drums.
Wait a minute, you can tune drums?
Yes, you can. But first, let's put those heads on. So now it's time for that big giant reveal of my guitarist's name. As you notice, we were buying some Evans brand drum heads to put on my guitarist's kit. Have you guessed what his name is yet? Huh? Have you? Well, his name's Evan. That's right, we're putting Evans drum heads on Evan's kit. Evans drum heads on Evan's kit. Yeah, we're putting Evans drum heads on Evan's kit.
Yeah, Rolling Rock on the Rolling Rocker.
Is that funny? The clear heads have this cool like oil looking thing going on with them, and I think it looks really cool. All right, look, I'm absolutely not qualified to talk about tuning drums, but essentially you use the drum dial to measure the tension of each mounting screw and make sure they are at the specific and mostly equal levels to optimize the sound and tone of your drums. I also tried to tune each shell to a specific note that would make sense for our songs, and that might be impossible, and it didn't work, and you shouldn't try it. Just tune it to what they should be. So yeah, tuning drums can be and feel really tedious to a lot of people, but honestly, I had a really good time learning the process. And again, I have to mention Glenn from Spectre Sound Studios. He has a great series of tutorials on tons of things, but specifically how to record live heavy drums. And it starts, right from the beginning, getting your drums tuned up, getting good heads on them. And without those tutorials, I would not have been able to do this with any amount of success. Fuck you, Glenn. All right, this has gone on long enough. The moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. It is time to hear how amazing this drum kit sounds. As we put on the new heads, we scrubbed off the rust, we fixed the cymbal, we got rid of the blood and the disgusting stuff. I bet it's gonna sound amazing. What's it gonna sound like? It sounds a bit better in person. I am obviously a terrible drummer, and this is my first time ever recording live drums, so the fact of the matter is, I'm not very good at it yet, but they do sound really cool in person, and I'm excited to keep practicing and getting better and better sounds. Though my skills as a drummer will probably not improve. Thank God I'm the singer in this band. So that was how I got this old, dirty, used and loved kit back into almost tip-top shape. And for real, it's probably the best sounding drum kit that I've ever played with. We should be doing our first recording of live drum tracks soon-ish, and a majority of the album is already tracked as far as strings go. We just need to finish the drums, the vocals, and get all the mixes finished, which I say that as if that's like a very small thing. It's not, it's gonna take a while. We're probably still pretty far away from it, but I'm having a good time doing it, and I'm learning a lot. I've also been filming all of the recording sessions for, I don't know, maybe to make like vlog videos or something in the future. I don't know what just yet. Oh, did you notice that drum riser that they're on right now? I'm sure you did. But did you also notice that it totally cancels almost all the transference of the kit into the floor? Well, I don't know how you would, but it does. Let me know if you're interested in seeing a video on how I made that, because it's pretty cool, and it'd be neat to take a deeper dive and see what other ideas people would have to make it even better. Speaking of which, if you have any tips or ideas on how I could have improved this process, specifically with like the rust thing, it seemed like the white vinegar was the simplest way to handle it, but I don't know, maybe you have like this like trick up your sleeve that works way easier, that might help somebody in the same situation as me or you get through this, without taking weeks of scrubbing and being covered in rust and sadness. But despite all of that, I'm really glad I did it. So please like and subscribe, because I have to say that, and keep your eyeballs peeled wide open for more stuff from me in the future. I don't know what it's gonna be. All right, see you later. Probably the drum riser video. I'm gonna do the drum riser video next. All right, bye. Sweat's pouring down my leg. I can see it. It's disgusting. Oh.